Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 275 Teixeira versus Prochazka. Again, first thing first, make sure you give this video a like, follow over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We do it all, baby. Super quick review of last week. 4 of 6 on picks doesn't sound bad. I do hate that Prochazka did ruin a lot of my parlays there, as he was a lock that lost, but at least one of the dogs hit. So we had one lock, one dog, both round totals hit. So, I mean, it is what it is. It was not a winning night for me because Prochazka was in so many parlays. But, just breaking even or going a little negative. I mean, it's sports betting. What are you going to do? But at the end of the day, I would like to say, let's just turn around. We have 10 straight weeks of fights, so we'll just turn it around and win a shit ton of money this week. We're going to see, because it's a weird card. To be honest with you, this is probably one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen in quite a bit. And there's a lot of just showcase fights, and a lot of these fights that are happening in Singapore, they want some of the Oriental fighters to win, and some of them on the card just aren't that good. So they had to give them people that aren't that good. So the card suffered and the line suffered. And it's a weird ass card. I have a shit ton of dogs. So it could be an extremely profitable night for us, or it could go up in flames. Let's see what happens, baby. Either way, we're going to give you the reason. We're going to give you the details. We're going to give you stats to go ahead and make your stacks, baby. Let's get it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the very first fight of the night. When it comes to the very first fight of the night, we're looking at Jocelyn Edwards at minus 170. That sounds so weird. Going up against Ramona Pascal at plus 135. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 215, under 2.5 plus 165. But again, my laptop's been acting a little strange as of late. So if it sounds like I'm flying, it's for a reason. So let's go ahead and fly these in. There's only 12 fights on here, so let's get it. Let's go ahead and start with Ramona Pascal. She is the first one on here that they're trying to push. She only has a 6-3 record, but I'll be honest with you, she hasn't exactly beaten the best of the best. The fight to get into the UFC prior to was some sort of like soccer mom that she fought and TKO'd pretty easily there with knees to the body in under a minute. Yeah, that was not a professional fighter that she fought. All in all, her striking is not that good. I know she has a little bit of like a karate background, but it's just okay. It's not the greatest. She also is pretty hittable. You can't hit her with her little karate style. But she's moved camps over to Syndicate and MMA. And you see it paying dividends. I do see her getting some takedowns since moving over to Syndicate. And her loss is to Josinha Nunez, who I think is honestly kind of bad. I think she's a 115 pounder with really long arms fighting at bantamweight. Like, I don't know what you're going to do with her. But Ramona took the fight on short notice there because she's at a Las Vegas gym. So she's a full training camp. Her wrestling is not good, but for a 145 pounder, I mean, there's only so many people that wrestle. So good for women's MMA in general. She's definitely going to be the bigger girl here. She's fought as high as 150 in some fights, so at least she's used to fighting this high up. There's not a lot of actual true featherweights. She's a big girl. She likes to move forward a little. Her jiu-jitsu is MIA. I'm not really 100% certain on it because you don't see it much in her fights. You just see a lot of Muay Thai clinches, a lot of karate. It's like she's a Muay Thai and karate style fighter put together who mixes in takedowns. It's a very peculiar style. It's just an odd style. And it'll work against some people and it won't work against others. Jocelyn Edwards also has kind of she has a pretty generic style. She wants to stand and bang. She doesn't have a ton of power. She will have a 4-inch reach advantage here, which is definitely in her favor. But she also has a suspect record. I know I talked about Ramona fighting nobodies and soccer moms. Jocelyn has fought 4 people that are UFC caliber. That's Carol Rosa, Sarah Alpar, Jessica Rose Clark, and yeah, she fought 3 that are UFC caliber. I do not know who the other girl was that she lost to. But the girls she beat were 0-0, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. Or sorry, I'm reading her record. We're 0-0, 0-0, 1-1, 1-0, 0-1, 3-3. She beat one girl with a winning record. Then she fought Sarah Alpar, who had a winning record and lost. So she decided, you know what? I like the whole beat people with shitty records ordeal. So then she fought someone that was 3-4 and won. And then they gave her Yanan Wu, who is one of the worst fighters in the UFC, in all honesty. And Wu Yanan looked fine to start the fight, but then she gassed out as she always does. But she took down Jocelyn pretty easily multiple times, and that's a little bit of a kryptonite for Jocelyn. She has an okay striking game. She'll have a reach advantage here, but she can't wrestle to save, or she cannot wrestle whatsoever. And as I mentioned, Ramona will mix it in. She had 3 takedowns against Josina Nunez, so that's a good look there. So at the end of the day, in women's MMA, if one can wrestle and one can't, if any MMA and one person can wrestle and one can't, you always take the wrestler. Ramona is not a wrestler by trait, but it doesn't take a lot to take down Jocelyn. So if you're telling me if I have plus money on someone that will mix in takedowns, who is the person they're trying to push, give me Ramona. Let's start the night with the dog, baby. Ramona's the pick. Ramona's the bet. Moving on, we have our next Oriental fighter in Na Liang at plus 125, plus money again, going up against Silvana. I'm so sorry. Silvana Gomez Suarez at minus 165. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 140. Under 1.5 plus 110. Yes, I'm reading that correctly. It's a 1.5 line in a women's strawweight fight. And Na Liang is the reason. Please, for the love of God, take a look at this woman's record. She has 24 professional fights. She's only 25 years old, and I love that she took a year off. I hate when people take a year off when they're hurt, but if they're not hurt and just training and they're super, super young, they take a year or 2 off, it seems to work. I know I said that last week with Alex De Silva. I had no idea he had a knee injury. He was not just training and getting better and developing that whole time. He was hurt. He was sidelined. It's not the same ordeal. And he looked fine on the feet, in all honesty. If he did not get that point taken away, that was a draw. So we kind of got screwed a little there with that, but here's another one. We have a young fighter who took a year off here. She was in a barn burner against Ariana Carnelossi in the very first fight of the night with Usman versus Masvidal 2, if you remember that fight. It was the first fight with fans, and God, did they deliver. I believe they got fight of the night, that fight. It was a wild fight, and that's how all of her fights are. She is kill or be killed, and she is round 1 bust. Please look at her record. Second round, first round, first round, first round, first round, first, second, first, second decision that she lost. Went to decision 1 time and she lost it because she gassed out. Outside of that, first round, 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 second round, first round, first round, first round. The girl has gone to the 3rd round 1 time in 24 fights. That's not normal. That is not normal whatsoever. She has knockouts. She has submissions. She has a shit ton of submissions on here. All in all, she is kill or be killed. Her striking's okay, but she is a little bit hittable. She will have a 4-inch reach advantage here, though, which I absolutely love. Her jiu-jitsu's okay. She has a lot of armbar finishes, which is pretty ironic because she's going against Silvana Suarez, who, for whatever reason, refuses to drill Brazilian jiu-jitsu. She does not believe in arm bars, even though she keeps getting her arms snapped off. She has 2 fights in the UFC. They were both first-round arm bar losses. At what point is she going to figure that out? She's a decision loss prior to that to Ariana Limsky, who is in the UFC, so that's fine. And then she was finished by Poliana Botello, who was also in the UFC. So all 4 of her losses are to girls that are in the UFC. That is nice. All of her wins are against pretty shaky competition over in Combate, which is not nice. So if she takes a step up, she loses. If she stays at the lower level regional scene, she's a killer. Her striking's okay. She hits kind of hard, but she herself is also hittable. So all in all, you have a Mexican striker going up against a Oriental just berserker. It's a matter of what works best for you. And at this point, just like the very first fight, if you're giving me plus money on the crowd favorite, the one they're trying to push in a 50-50 fight, you always take the plus money. So the pick is going to be Na Liang Na, or I know sometimes it's backwards. I'll just say Na Liang. And that she's going to be the bet too. Let's go back-to-back dogs to start off the night, baby. Then the next fight of the night, we have Kung Ho Kang at plus 125, going up against Dana Bakdorel at minus 155. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 130, under 2.5, even money. And that's interesting. And that's mainly because of Kanyo Kang. He's pretty durable, man. He hasn't been knocked out since 2008 or something crazy like that. He is the definition of a generalist. Just like Korean Zombie, he did lose 2 years due to military service. But outside of that, the required military service over in South Korea, North Korea, South Korea. At the end of the day, he's a generalist. His wrestling's okay. His striking's okay. His jiu-jitsu game is okay. He is not good at anything. He is not bad at anything. He is just a proficient fighter. His cardio's okay. He will slow down, but he won't gas out. The part where he struggles is his volume. His volume is on the lower side, but he will have a 3-inch reach advantage here, and that's really significant considering Dana is the better striker. He is pretty decently high volume, which I did not expect. I went back and did fight tape, and it was not what I expected. Also, he has a lot of power, a lot of power. And that's why it's very important that Kang has, again, not been knocked out in like 12 years or something like that. So that's important. Dana's wrestling is not where it needs to be. You look at fights against, Hilly Alatang, took him down multiple times. You look at fights against Guido, Kevin, and Brandon. They did not get a chance to take him down because they got knocked out right away. So that's kind of where he excels. If he's able to stand on the feet, he's going to try to put you away. If you take him down, he doesn't have much to offer. Chris Gutierrez just knocked him out. That's not normal, but we were all over Chris. We saw that live. But Dana impressed me. I had a lot of money on Chris. He was a dog of the night that week. I was all over Chris Gutierrez to win that fight. And he ultimately did, but it was a lot greasier than I expected it to be. And Dana earned a lot of my respect that night. So I'm going to give him a little more, and I'm going to pick him to win. Will I bet him at minus 155? At first, I was all over it, but then I kind of thought twice and looked at Kang's wrestling, and it's not that bad. And Dana does struggle and only has like 60% takedown defense. So I was all over Dana. Dana kills him on the feet, even though he's at a reach disadvantage. But if he doesn't knock him out and Kang is still sitting there, I don't know what to do. If Kang can wrestle like the way Alatang did, it does scare me now. And here's a real greasy theory that I heard on the Dogger Pass podcast. Kang, all of his losses are in America. All of his losses are in America. This fight is in Singapore, where he has fought a plethora of times. So that was the deciding factor for me in regards to not making Dana a lock anymore. So the pick is still going to be Dana. The bet would end up being Dana, but he's going to be at the very, very bottom of everything. Just after doing a little more fight tape, I just can't do it. I can't do it. All right. Next fight of the night, we're looking at Jake Matthews plus 120 going up against Andre Fiallo at minus 150. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is even money. Under 2.5 is minus 130. Let's start with Andre. Why? Because I can't seem to get Andre wrong. Plot twist. I got him against Michel Pereira. I said Michel is going to whoop his ass, and Michel whooped his ass. Then I said, you know what? If he fights a striker, though, he has a shot. And sure enough, they matched him up against Miguel Bieza, who's fine on the ground, can wrestle to an extent, but doesn't like to do so. He likes to stand, and he has a suspect chin. And I said, Andre he has a very questionable ground game. His wrestling is yet to be tested, but I don't think Miguel Bieza is going to be the guy to do it. I think he's going to try to stand with him. And he has a suspect chin, and the one thing Andre does have is power. He does hit hard. The striking is not bad. He is a little hittable, don't get me wrong. But he does have some power. When he cracks you, you feel it. And sure enough, he knocked him out. And the next fight, he took Cameron Van Camp on short notice. Cameron Van Camp is someone who gets a lot of wins early on the regional scene, is very cocky, but very hittable. And again, Andre does have power. If he cracks Cameron, who sometimes even fights at lightweight, he's going to put him out. And sure enough, won by knockout. So Andre has had 3 fights, and I've gotten all 3 right. I am the Andre Fiallo whisperer. He has good striking, okay power, very hittable, possibly a little chinny. He has 4 losses, and a lot of them are by knockout. He's had a good camp in Sanford MMA. just a pressure brawler, basically. And he will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. His cardio's okay. It checks out, but he does slow down just a touch. But these are against strikers. And the biggest part of cardio is wrestling. That is going to take your cardio away the most. And plot twist, Jake Matthews is not a half bad wrestler or jiu-jitsu practitioner. So the two things that Andre Fiallo struggles with, or I would say are his weakest points, are the things that Jake Matthews is the best at. He's only 27, so we could see some possible improvements. His striking is not as good as Fiallo. He's not as fast. He doesn't really like to get hit. He's a little sketchy there. He could be possibly a little chitty as well, but he has good jiu-jitsu and he has pretty good wrestling. We haven't seen him in a year after Sean Brady whooped his ass. And Sean Brady is another specimen, and it's the complete opposite of Andre Fiallo. So at that juncture, you have striker versus wrestler. If you have a wrestler at plus money, that's usually the way you go, unless you have reason to believe not to do so. And Andre I've only seen him on the ground once. It is a little bit of an anomaly. I've only seen him on the ground once, and it didn't look good down there. So if Jake is able to get this to the ground, he can definitely kill him down there. And if there's plus money on the young kid, let me take it. So the pick is going to be Jake. The bet is going to be Jake Matthews. Moving on, we have Michette at plus 135 going up against Steve Garcia at minus 170. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 132. Under 2.5 minus 162. If you have one name, first of all, you're probably nasty. I know they put his whole name here in Tapology, but the UFC only puts his last name. So, I mean, he's nasty. He's only 22 years old. He is, again, the Oriental prospect that they're trying to push here. He's a Dana White Contender Series fighter. Generally, I try to fade these guys on the very first fight, but I fade them when they're favorites. He's an underdog here. Again, plus 135, so it did pique my interest. His striking's not bad. He's a little hittable, but that's just because he's a little green, because he's only 22 years old and he's only had 7 pro fights. But that also means there's a lot of room for improvement, and he's going to get better and better each fight, so it's a matter of hopping on before the bandwagon hits. He looks fine offensively. It's just he's a little defensively irresponsible on the feet. He could get countered a ton. But all in all, he doesn't look terrible. He looks pretty fast. He looks pretty explosive. He definitely has good cardio. He got chin checked in his Dana White Contender Series fight, but he withstood the pressure and then continued to march on and win rounds 2 and 3. That's a good win. His other wins, not so much. Fighting guys that are 0-2 and 0-2 and 0-0 and 10 and 12 and 0-1. So he only has one win over someone with a winning record. That's not good. But again, he was like 18 years old fighting these guys. So, I mean, I'll cut him a little bit of slack here. He's growing into his man body. And he impressed me his last fight, staying durable here. Steve Garcia, on the other hand, is more or less not going to just stand the entire time. He can strike. He's okay on the feet. He does okay volume. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. And he does have 100% takedown defense. But again, Machete wants to keep it on the feet. It's just Steve has some sketchy losses on his record. You see he's 12-4. Luis Pena's not that good. He took an L there. Alon Cruz is not that good. He took an L there. He has a loss to Joe Warren, who fights at flyweight and bantamweight often. Again, this fight is at 155. And he has a loss to Ricky Tercios, who, again, fights at 135. This is 155. The best win on his record is Ronnie Lawrence, who, again, fights at 135. This fight is at 155. So I don't know why he's such a big favorite here when he's not even a true 155-pounder, and Machete is. He's very, very big for the weight class of Machete. Steve Garcia, not so much. I don't know. This is a weird fight. This is a definitely stay away fight. This is probably the one that I want to stay away from most on the card. But backed into a corner like this where you just don't know, you just take a shot on the dog. So the pick is going to be Steve Garcia because he's the bet, but the bet is going to be Machete with a plus 135 next to his name. All right. And then the next fight of the night, we're looking at Sungwoo Choi going up against Josh Kolabao. Choi is minus 245 favorite. Kolabao at plus 185. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 130. under 2.5 even money. I'll be honest with you. I switched out to Na, and I'm putting Choi in there as a lock because Choi is good. Okay. When you look at Sung Woo Choi, you look at his losses. He lost to Gavin Tucker, who's very, very good. He lost to Mazvar Ovlev, who's a top 3 guy at featherweight, literally. He lost to Alex Caceres, a vet, who he absolutely murdered. Had a foul. They had to stop the fight momentarily and restart the fight, and then he got caught and choked. It was very peculiar. And then his other loss, I don't know the guy. He got knocked out in 30 seconds. It seems like a little bit of an anomaly. So you have a fight against a top 5 guy. You have a fight against a veteran. You have a fight against someone random where you got caught. And then you have a loss against someone who is where the fight got restarted. So very odd losses there. In regards to his wins, Julian Erosa, that's a good win. And knocking him out in a minute 30. Julian is a suspect chin, but he did what he was supposed to do. Yusuf Zalal, good fighter. Good win. I mean, all in all, when you give him someone that he's supposed to beat, he does. When you give him someone nasty, he was losing. But again, these are top 15 guys that he's been fighting, and he's been holding his own. Again, the Caceres fight, he pretty much knocked him out. They had to stop the fight and restart it because there was one illegal strike there. That was just a really, really weird fight. But all in all, he has good striking. His cardio is okay. He is massive for 145. I have no idea how he makes featherweight. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. His biggest problem is his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You look at his losses, he has 4 losses. 2 of them are by sub. He's not the greatest on the ground, to be 100% honest with you, but what are you going to do? You have to have weaknesses. He's getting better at it. Caceres is a black belt. Gavin Tucker is a black belt. Like, he's getting tapped out by black belts. Ablueb didn't tap him out. He took him down multiple times. So it's just the top of the top with jiu-jitsu that takes him out. Kulabau is not that guy. Kulabau wants to strike. He also has pretty decent losses, only losing to like Charles Jourdain. I'm sorry, that was a draw. He has a draw with Charles Jourdain. His loss is to Jalen Turner, who's an absolute killer. I love Jalen Turner. He's pretty hittable, though. You could hit him more than he dishes out. That's not good fighting someone who likes to strike in Choi, who hits very, very hard. But his striking's okay. He will shoot occasional takedown. But he's kind of low volume, and I don't know, man. It's basically his wrestling. Choi's takedown defense looks a lot better. I know Yusuf Zalal tried to take him down, and he got him down a few times, but Choi stuffed a shit ton of them. So Choi is getting better and better in the grappling aspect, the wrestling aspect. The grappling still working on. And again, only black belts have tapped him out. So I don't think Kulabau is going to be able to do that. So the pick is going to be Choi in a stand-up fight. And God, I would definitely bet Choi if it's a full stand-up fight as well. All right. Then the next fight of the night, we have a controversial one. We have Brendan Allen at minus 325 going up against Jacob Malkoun at plus 245. I'll be 100% honest with you. Brendan Allen is the better fighter. Brendan Allen is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brandon Allen has not bad striking. He's actually getting better and better. Brandon Allen has fought the better guys. I mean, all of his losses. Chris Curtis, nasty. Sean Strickland, about to fight for a title. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, nasty. Eric Anders was nasty at one point, is decent. Trevin Giles is decent. So he has 0 bad losses on his record. He only loses to studs. His cardio, he slows down. We saw it in the Kyle Dawkins fight. We saw it in the Puna Soriano fight. We saw it in those 2 fights mostly I can think of right away. He's a killer in the first round, and then he doesn't gas out. He slows down. There's a difference. So all in all, his cardio is okay. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage. An advantage on the feet. He'll have an advantage on the ground. He's a very, very good fighter. The issue he has is that he's a little bit chinny. Again, he has 5 losses, and he's been knocked out in half of them. He got choked out by Trevor Giles. So he's been finished in 3, but he's been knocked out in about half of them. And he has 50% takedown defense. That's the biggest issue here. And the reason that's an issue is because Jacob Malkoun will wrestle his ass off. Jacob Malkoun is a glass cannon. He can wrestle you like no tomorrow. His striking is ass. He does not have good striking. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's weird. Some places you hear that he's a purple belt. Some places you hear that he's Robert Whitaker's training. He's Robert Whitaker's teacher, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. Like, it's weird. I don't know what he actually is. I don't know how good he actually is at Jiu-Jitsu. I know that I've seen him attempt a lot of submissions. He attempted a shit ton against Abdul Razak Al-Assad, wasn't able to get them, so that was a little concerning. I saw him take down AJ Dobson, who's not good on the ground, and not get the finish, so that was a little concerning. I don't know about Malkoun's actual submission pedigree. It's up in the air. I'm leaning more towards a purple belt personally. But as long as he can stay safe, because he's definitely going to go for a takedown here. Brendan Allen has a glass jaw, but so does Jacob Malkoun. He cannot take a punch, as we saw in the Phil Hawes fight. So all in all, you have two chinny guys that want to go at it. One is decent at striking, the other one is not. One is good on the ground, the other one could be. And one is terrible at wrestling, one is bad at wrestling. So you really break it down when you take all the chins away, you take the submissions away, you look at striker versus grappler. And at this line, at plus 245, you have to take the grappler just for value alone. So the pick is Brendan Allen because he is the better fighter. The bet is going to be Jacob Malkoun because he's the better wrestler and he has a slightly better cardio. So even if Brendan comes out and wins the first round, which he probably will, I can guarantee you if Jacob Malkoun is still there, again, he can get knocked out early, but if he's still there, he will definitely win the third, and it comes down to the second, and that's going to be a nail biter. So give me the plus 250, basically, in a very, very close fight. Then that sends us to the main card, man. We have Jack Della Maddalena at minus 150 going up against Ramazan Ameev at plus 125. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 220. Under 2.5 at plus 170. Let's start with Jack. That's kind of why the line is the way it is. Because Jack is the favorite. Jack is very good. Jack is a finisher, but he's not a power puncher. I love the comparison I heard to him and Max Holloway, to where he just wears on you. He's not necessarily going to go out and just knock you out early, but if he gets a knockout, you're not surprised, because he has a shit ton of volume. Very, very high volume, only 25 years old and improving each and every fight. 75% takedown defense. He's going to need that going up against Ramazan Ameev. But his striking is his bread and butter. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of there. But yeah, very, very, very high volume. He never stops throwing. He averages like over 8 significant strikes per minute, and that is very, very, very good. That's like double what other people are doing on average. So he throws a shit ton. Ramazan Ameev on the other end is very low volume. He actually throws less than most people do. He slows down a little bit in his fights again. He doesn't gas. He slows down a touch. His wrestling, I want to say, is okay, but he doesn't get a lot of takedowns per se. He does a lot of octagon control. His striking's okay. It's not bad. He's also kind of one of these generalists, but his bread and butter is pushing you up against the cage and holding you there. We've seen it time and time again. The Holy Home fight. We saw it last week with Jeff Molina and Zalgas. If you're not landing damage and you're just holding them there, the judges are changing, and the judges don't like that. And in his very last fight against Danny Roberts, I thought he won the fight. I had a bet on Ramazan Ameev, but he held him against a cage and he didn't land a ton, and the judges didn't reward him for it. So yes, they're in Singapore, but it's going to be American judges there. They're going to bring their own people. So at that juncture, trying to be the same type of judging. So the judges are getting sick of his style, and they're getting sick of the style in general. I don't feel comfortable with it, especially with someone with such high volume as Jack. Jack has taken a huge step up in competition. His best fighter he fought was Angelus as of now. But Ramazan, man, he is so low volume. I just can't do it. It's going to be too greasy. And minus 155 isn't a crazy line. So the pick is going to be Jack. The bet is going to end up being Jack Della Maddalena. All right. Then the very next fight, we have Manel Kopp at minus 235 going up against Rogerio Bontorina plus 180. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 110. Under 2.5 minus 140. Let's start with Kopp. And we're going to start with Kopp with good reason. Because for some reason he's fighting on this card. You guys follow MMA and you realize that Kopp did have a little bit of an issue starting his UFC tenure. He lost his very first fight against Alexander Pantoja. Pantoja's a very, very good fighter. I think he should be fighting for the title. I don't like the KKF. And I know everyone loves KKF right now. I know everyone loves Brandon Moreno. But Alexander Pantoja has beat KKF recently. Or sorry, Alexander Pantoja beat Brandon Moreno twice. Pantoja has beaten everyone they've given him. I mean, I think Pantoja deserves to fight, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's not the tangent. He lost to Alexander Pantoja, as everyone does. Then he lost to Mateus Nicolau, and both of those were striking affairs. Yes, they were close. I did think he lost to Pantoja. Nicolau, I thought he won. I thought it was a little bit of a robbery, but it shouldn't have been that close because Nicolau is predominantly a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's good on the feet, don't get me wrong, but that is Kopp's specialty. So Kopp concerned me because he was throwing very, very low volume, and then something happened. He fought Ode Osborne and he lost. Or sorry, he did not make weight. He was 4 pounds overweight. It seems like he did that on purpose. He didn't try to cut, was a half pound over, a pound over. You're allowed to be 4 pounds overweight. After the 5th pound, they scrapped the fight. He was exactly 4 pounds over. That seems a little sketchy. That sounds like someone that thought with a third loss, he might get cut. He went out there, he was losing the first round, and then caught Ode with a flying knee and put his lights out. Sketchy. It looked good finish. I didn't like how he got there with the weight miss and how that looked. That looked very sketchy. Then his very next fight, we talked about him being low volume. He came out and threw over 50 significant strikes in the very first round against Zaga Samagulov. That's not normal. He looked very, very strong there, and he put him out. And then he tested positive for the juice. Interesting. So he was 0-2 in the UFC. Then he purposely missed weight and then got caught juicing. So PED, Manel Kopp is nasty. And you know what? He's suspended. He is suspended for 6 months, yet he's still fighting because they're not in America. USADA suspended him, not the UFC. The UFC is in Singapore. They are in a different country. And you know where Singapore is? Over east where Manel Kopp fought. He is the hometown hero in this scenario. So you have someone that's a better striker. He has very good striking. Jiu-jitsu, he's a purple belt, or he's a brown belt. Excuse me. He's a brown belt. So apparently he knows what's on the ground, but I don't really see him on the ground often. So I don't know. I'm just told that he's a brown belt. I've never seen him personally practice jiu-jitsu, so I don't know if he's good at it or not. But on a pedigree stage, he should be fine. But he has 80% takedown defense, so he doesn't want to be down there in general. He will kill Bontarine on the feet. So he may come in overweight. He may come in juiced. You don't know what we're going to get. But we do know that he's used to fighting there. We do know that they're fighting at like 7 a.m. or something like that. And he's used to that time frame. He knows how to train down there. And honestly, being out there that long, he knows where to get the juice if he needs it, since they're not testing that hard out there. So you look at Bontarine on the other side. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu whiz. He's very, very good on the ground. His wrestling's sneaky good. It's really not that bad. He's a pretty good wrestler, in all honesty. Striking's okay. It's improving, and you see him look pretty good. He went out there and won a striking affair against Matt Schnell. That's a hard thing to do. Schnell was definitely faster, but Bontarine hits harder and was able to stay safe there. He missed weight for that, but he looked okay, especially considering the fact that he's generally low volume and very hittable. That does not spell well fighting Kopp. But again, that's not his initiative, is to stand with Kopp. He wants to take him down and blanket him. That's what he tried to do with Brandon Royval. He took him down and just stayed glued. It was position over submission. He wasn't even going for submissions. He was just holding Brandon down as much as he could. We ended up losing a split decision there because, again, he wasn't doing a lot of damage. This is another one. The judges are changing. They don't reward you if you're not inflicting any damage. So that is important here. But yeah, he's definitely going to try to wrestle him. But can he take Juice Kopp down? I don't know. 80% takedown defense on the roids. I don't think he's going to even be able to get him down. And on the feet, Bontarine's been knocked out by KKF. He's been rocked before. He might possibly be a little chinny. So that being said, you have someone that's okay striking, but not the greatest. That could be chinny, going against one of the hardest hitting, best strikers in the division. with a good takedown defense and the hometown advantage, and roids, give me Cop. Cop is the pick. Cop is the bet, baby. Then that takes us to Zhang Wei Li at minus 170 going against Joanna Jędrzejczyk at plus 135. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 262. Under 2.5 plus 207. I'll be honest with you, I only watched one fight in fight tape here, and that was Wei Li Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. They've already fought. They fought 2 years ago. In my opinion, Joanna won and got screwed, but it is what it is. Part of the reason she lost is because, again, she had that big hematoma on her head. She did not look the way that she looked coming into that fight because Zhang hits hard, baby. Joanna is going to have a striking advantage here. To my surprise, she seemed to be the faster fighter. She will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. She will have a cardio advantage here. She's very high volume, 80% takedown defense, so she's not easy to get down. Jiu-jitsu, kind of non-existent. She just pops back up, so if you do take her down. But yeah, she's very, very, very good on the feet. Doesn't hit particularly hard, but will put a shit ton of volume on you. Wei Li on the other end, it's weird. I don't think she goes out and loses 3 fights in a row. I thought she won her last fight against Rose. In all honesty, she did get the takedowns, which she probably will try to utilize in this fight. You take down Joanna, she will have a jiu-jitsu advantage. She'll have a wrestling advantage. She's also high volume and also has very good striking, which is very, very good on her front. I do think Wei Li is the better fighter. I do. In all honesty, I do think Wei Li is a better fighter. And this is a 3-round fight, so I don't think cardio is going to be a factor either. I think they both have 3-round cardio. It's going to come down to how does Wei Li approach this? If she mixes in wrestling, I think she wins. If it's a stand-up war like it was the first time when it was fight of the night, I think Joanna wins. So I think it's close. I think it's 50-50. But I'm going to take the dog money there. So does Wei Li wrestle or does she not? Wei Li's at fight ready. And I think that means wrestling. The last time I checked with Henry Cejudo. I also think Wei Li is, from China. Again, they're in Singapore. She's the one they're trying to push. They don't want her to lose 3 fights in a row. We haven't seen Joanna in 2 years. Since her last fight with Zhang, so there might be a little rust to start. So if you're giving Wei Li the first round, you're giving her the wrestling advantage. I like Joanna. I think Joanna is the value. I have a bet on Joanna, but the pick is going to be Wei Li. The bet, Joanna's a former champ, man, and it may just be a striking fight, not because Wei Li doesn't want to take her down, but because she can't. So at that juncture, the bet is Joanna. So the pick is Wei Li, and I don't feel bad about it. But plus 140 on the former champ, I got to take it. All right. Then next fight of the night is our co-main event of the evening. We have Valentina Shevchenko at a whopping minus 650 going up against Tayla Santos at plus 400. Over under set at 3.5. Over 3.5 minus 160. Under 3.5 plus 130. We can keep this one sweet and simple here. Valentina, good, shockingly good wrestling. Great striking, elite striking. 77% takedown defense, and she's fought the best of the best. I mean, she has power. She has cardio. Look at a fucking picture of her knocking out Jessica Ai with a head kick. She's a killer. Was her nickname the Bullet? Man, she is a legitimate killer, and hopefully she doesn't kill anyone in the octagon because she's that damn good. I think she is the female GOAT. She has 3 losses on her record. One was to Liz Carmouche, and that was by cut. She was winning the fight. There was just a cut on her head, and they stopped it, and they will stop fights due to cut earlier for women's MMA. I did notice, so the cut wasn't even that bad looking at it, in all honesty. They just stopped it, so that kind of sucks. Her other 2 losses, she lost to Amanda Nunes, and I thought it was pretty clear. And then they rematched. And it was a split decision that went to Nunes, and I thought Valentina won. And in all honesty, Valentina's a flyweight. Nunes fights as heavy as 145. So she's giving up 20 pounds to who people consider the female GOAT and going to split decisions. God, Valentina's good. God, Valentina's the real GOAT. If they both weighed the same amount, she would kill her. She did not lose at 135 outside of a cut into who people consider the GOAT. and in split decisions. God, Valentina is just good everywhere. Taila Santos on the flip side will have a 2-inch reach advantage. She does have okay striking. She's athletic. I should say it's athletic striking. It's not good striking. Her wrestling is good, though. 86% takedown accuracy is not normal. Again, wrestling is not really a thing in MMA for women, but she's good at it, and that's why she's getting a title shot. In all honesty, her jiu-jitsu is fine. The issue is her schedule. Yes, she's fighting for a title. Yes, she's like 4-1 in the UFC, but you have to look at who she fought. First and foremost, to start her career, she fought someone that was 1-0, 0-1, 0-1, 2-1, 1-3, 0-1, 0-0, 0-0, 0-1, 0-0. God, 3-1, 0-1, 0-1, 7-1. Not the greatest record there. Yeah, she's 19-1, but she only fought like 4 people that had winning records. Then she came into the UFC and lost her debut to Mara Borella, who is not good whatsoever. So that does not look good. Everyone writes her off. They make her a dog against Meatball Molly McCann. Jesus, was that a mistake? Again, she likes to wrestle. Meatball is a British striker. She took her down and controlled her with ease, right? Molly McCann, not a bad fighter, can't wrestle worth a shit. Then she fights Jillian Robertson. She wants to wrestle. Jillian loves the ground game, but can't wrestle. As hard as she tries, she shoots takedowns from super far away, does not have good takedown defense because she wants to go to the ground. So she's fought someone who wants to play the ground game, and Taila on top was able to just stay safe. Take Jillian down and hold her down. Jillian can't really wrestle. Then she fought Roxanne Manafari, who has now since retired from the UFC. Can't strike whatsoever. Not the greatest wrestler. Took her down. She was dominating her on the feet, but chose to took her down anyway, and then just stayed there. Again, position over submission. Just hold her there. It is what it is. Then she fights Joanne Wood, who cannot wrestle. She rocked her on the feet. Don't get me wrong. That's a good look. But then took her down and tapped her out easily because JoJo does not have the greatest jiu-jitsu and can't wrestle. So, yeah, she's on a 4-fight winning streak, but she's fighting 4 people that can't wrestle. Valentina can wrestle. Her offensive wrestling better than her defensive. Again, 77% takedown defense, but striking, God, Valentina kills her on the feet. And again, we saw Taila choke in her very first fight in the UFC. What makes you think she's not going to choke in her first title fight? Obviously, she's a choker. Obviously, she's fighting the GOAT. So do not stand in front of Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know. I mean, I understand that. I understand she could take her down and just wrestle fuck her for 25 minutes. If Taila Santos wins, it's going to be one of the most boring fights in history. But she's not going to win because Valentina is the female GOAT. So the pick is Valentina. The bet is going to be Valentina, but zero value. She's almost minus 700. What are you going to do? Then that takes us to the main event. We have the champ, Glover Teixeira, as dog money, plus 165, going up against 10-year younger Yuri Prochazka at minus 215. Over/under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 125. Over 1.5 is minus 125. Under 1.5 minus 105. Almost a pick 'em. And let's start with Yuri. Yuri is 28-3. He is going to be the hometown favorite here. He's the one that has fought a lot of his fights overseas, over in Tokyo, over in China, over in Japan. He kind of took over and won championship fighting like King Mo and things like that. But right now he's over at Fight Ready, which is perfect because again, Fight Ready is known for working on people's cardio and working on people's wrestling. And he's going to need that against Glover. He will not need help striking. He is a superior striker. He's a very good striker, very high volume striker. But he does get hit a ton. He hits you a ton, but you hit him a ton. He's not very defensively sound. He does not keep his hands up whatsoever. And it's weird because he has 3 losses and he got knocked out. And I want to say he got finished in all 3. So it's not like you can't hurt this guy. Even people like, oh God, his debut against Volkan Ozdemir. Ozdemir hurt him really badly before Ozdemir got knocked out. Ozdemir hurt him bad. Like, he does not keep his hands up. It kind of reminds me of like a Dusko to Tavorovich, where he just fights with his hands really, really low. And he has 50% takedown defense. Take that with a grain of salt. There's only been 2 takedown attempts, both by Dominic Reyes, who is not a wrestler, but he did get him down once. That's not a good look. He blast doubled him, and that's the takedown of choice for Glover Teixeira, so that's very concerning. His jiu-jitsu, again, not very good. He just wants to get up at that point. So Yuri is questionable wrestling, not the best jiu-jitsu. Great striking, great power. The cardio suspect. Most of his fights don't go long. I look at his record. I mean, second round, first, third, first. Decision win, good for him. First. Decision, first. A whole bunch of first round finishes. He has like 3 decisions on here. So he's gone the distance 3 times and won them, which is nice. But that wasn't 25 minutes. That was 15 minutes. This is a whole 25. I don't know if he has 25 rounds of cardio. I don't know if he'll need it because Glover is a little bit chinny, in all honesty. He does not have the greatest chin. He does not have the greatest striking. He's someone that likes to wrestle and has a very good jiu-jitsu game. So where Glover is bad is where Yuri is good. Where Yuri is bad is where Glover is good. He is the champ. He's 42 years old. He's been doing a little bit of a rope-a-dope. He knows that his striking's not that good anymore. So he lets people beat the shit out of him. Then he takes him down and he taps him out. It's very interesting. He did it against Thiago Santos. He did it against, Yanni came out and just wrestled in general. He did it against Ian Kutsalaba. He did it against Carl Robertson. He did it against, what was the other person he did it against? It's over and over and over. He keeps doing this like Kennedy Njoku style. He did it against Nikita Krylov, and he even did it against Misha Serkinov to an extent. He lets you beat the shit out of him, and then he takes you down and he taps you out. That's what he does. And you know what Yuri's going to do? Come out and try to beat the shit out of him. So is he going to be Anthony Smith? Was what I was looking for. I'm sorry. Is he going to be an Anthony Smith, come out, beat the shit out of him for the first round, 10-8 him, and then gas out doing so and then get finished? He could. Or is he going to come out and just do it and actually finish the job like people like like Alexander Gustafsson, who knocked him out, people like Anthony Johnson, who knocked him out? Is he going to be that route? He could. So what I love here is I don't like that it's set at 1.5. Fight not to go the distance is super juice. It's like -500. If you can get like a -2.5, that's very, very good odds. That's the only way I would approach this. Only other way I would approach it, put Yuri in all your parlays and then just hedge with Glover. If your parlays are still alive and Yuri is the last leg on there, hedge with Glover, please, for the love of God. I did so with Glover versus Jan, and it saved my ass because I had 3 parlays still alive, all had Jan. I put a max bet real quick on Glover and was able to win money that night because of it. So the pick is Yuri. The bet is Yuri in your parlays, but you hedge with Glover ASAP. And that's UFC 275 Teixeira versus Prochazka. It's not the greatest card. It's not the longest card, but we're going to try to make it profitable. A whole bunch of dogs that start the night, and then we're looking for those favorites to go ahead and complete the job at the end. Again, give this page a subscribe, this video a like. Make sure you like over on Instagram, Twitter, over on TikTok. We're doing big things. We're getting money, baby. Let's get it.